The Firekeeper's Bride Part 7, A Fire That Won't Burn, trial was over. Kael had won. The king had no choice but to acknowledge his rule and accept Seraphina as his bride. But even as the royal banners disappeared beyond the horizon, the weight of the last 3 days lingered in the air. The keep was free. Seraphina was free. And yet, something had changed. Not between them and the king, between them. That evening, the halls of the Obsidian Keep were quieter than usual. The servants whispered about the victory. The soldiers spoke of Kael's strength. But Seraphina thought only of the way he had looked at her. Not as a burden, not as a stranger, not as a woman forced upon him, but as something else, something he wasn't ready to name. She found him where she always did, on the balcony overlooking the Emberwood Forest. The night was warm, but Kael still burned hotter. The air shimmered around him, heat curling at his fingertips as he leaned against the stone railing. She approached cautiously. "You never sleep," she said softly. Kael didn't turn. "Neither do you." Seraphina hesitated before stepping beside him. She looked over the dark trees, the silver moonlight stretching over the distant hills. "You won," she said. Kael exhaled, something almost like a laugh in his breath. "Did I?" She frowned. "You still doubt it?" Kael's golden eyes flickered toward her, unreadable. "The king may be gone, but he is never truly defeated." Seraphina studied him. She had seen him fight. She had seen him endure pain. She had seen him walk through fire. But she had never seen him like this. Uncertain, wary, restless. She reached out, hesitating before touching his arm. His skin was warmer than the summer air. "Kael," she said softly, testing the way his name felt on her tongue. His gaze locked onto hers, the weight of it making her heart pound. For the first time, he didn't look away. "I don't want to be the king's weapon," he admitted, his voice rough. "I never did." Seraphina swallowed. "Then what do you want?" Kael's fingers curled against the railing. He parted his lips as if to answer, but then he stopped. Instead, he did something she didn't expect. He reached for her hand. And for the first time, he didn't pull away. Seraphina had never touched fire without fear. But Kael's warmth was different. His fingers wrapped around hers firm, steady, careful. She knew this was something he never did. He didn't let people near. He didn't let people touch him. But now, he was holding her hand. And it was not fire that burned her. It was something else entirely. Her pulse quickened. Kael's thumb brushed over her skin, slow and deliberate. His golden eyes flickered in the dim light, searching hers. She could feel it in the space between them, the shift. The fragile line they had walked since the moment she arrived. It was beginning to crack. Seraphina's breath was uneven. She had spent weeks pushing past his walls. Now, for the first time, he was letting her in. Slowly, carefully, but deliberately. Kael exhaled. "I should go." Seraphina nodded. "You should." Neither of them moved. For a moment, all she could hear was the wind. The distant rustling of the trees. The steady thunder of her own heartbeat. Then Kael gently let go. The warmth of his touch lingered long after he disappeared into the shadows. Seraphina barely slept. Her mind replayed the moment over and over. The way he had held her hand. The way he had not pulled away. The way he had almost said something but stopped. She had never known Kael to hesitate. Not in battle. Not in strategy. Not in war. But with her, he did. And that was far more dangerous. By the time the sun rose, she knew one thing. This was no longer just a political marriage. This was something else. Something neither of them had been prepared for. And whatever it was, it had only just begun. To be continued.